Hello, everyone. My name is Asanda Maabuka. I am from a small town, Mtata, and I don't know why I agreed to this. I always, struggle with these things, but it's important to put ourselves out there, right? And thank you to SME for inviting me, and I think them believing that I do have something to share. So thanks, Omega. But yeah, all right. So I mean, the topic is growing female representation, but I think my space is mostly franchising, so I will be speaking more about that. Um, and I think one day we should actually discuss, women queer, how to grow women queer representation. But that's another topic for another day, I guess. So yeah, when you walk through a mall or a township high street, right, you'll see a lot of women behind the counter, and those people keep the franchises alive. Today, women own 40% of retail franchises in South Africa. I mean, that's definitely progress, right? Um, but here's the paradox, though. South African women believe in their business skills more than the global average clearly does. Yet franchisor ownership has been stuck at 30%. If you look into South Africa, that number is way, 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 way less. And that's definitely a problem that obviously needs to be addressed. And why does this matter? It matters because women bring exact skills and exact skills that franchising actually needs. We bring resilience, multitasking, empathy, and grit. And I mean, that's truly what you need to grow a franchise business. Barriers holding women back. So what is it that is holding women back? I mean, if we're being real, these barriers are pretty, pretty, pretty stubborn. It's taking a while to knock them down. It's been years. I mean, we talk about 30 years of democracy, but women legacies and in global economies, it's been forever, right? So capital. I think capital is one of the most fundamental and remains the biggest roadblock. Many women with great ideas cannot access funding at all. Um, there's so many of us who are bootstrapping. I particularly bootstrap for so long, and I always joke and say to my family, well, it's not a joke, but everyone's money is in it. You get 10,000 from this person, 100,000 from this magazi and this aunt, and whatever. So capital is a stumbling block. Um, and then obviously there's the work and life balance. The franchise model is actually perfect for women juggling these roles. But social norms will still tell you, that it's still a man's game. And yeah, that's not entirely the truth. And it's not just about money. Without the networks and mentors, women in rural or small towns struggle to even start. I was, and specifically speaking about this, I was someone who was I was tired of being mentored. There's research that female entrepreneurs in South Africa and in the world actually are the most mentored. We are over mentored. We're not, and our male counterparts are given money to flourish. And I particularly was very pedantic on this, and I hated it. Like everyone you meet, it's like get into an incubator. I hate being incubated. Please don't incubate me. And but the value of it after I went into a program that literally changed my life. And I'll be speaking about that. I completely believe in it. So, without networks and mentors, women in general, not even in rural areas or small towns, but I speak on small towns because I am from, a peri-urban area, who then Jimmy comes to Joburg and tries to make it, right? So we do struggle to start. And at the end of the day, women are often carrying, both the business and the household, which I mean that's a double load. Women are. I think there was a research done recently that females. I think There's 60% more females in university pursuing university degrees than males. So you're pursuing a university degree. You're pursuing. I mean, you have a household to take care of, and yet you also want to run a business. So that is quite a big load. Um, uh, proven strategies that work, right? There are definitely some good news. These barriers are used correctly. These barriers can be turned into building blocks. And I think if I speak for myself, and most women entrepreneurs, everyone can say, they used these blocks as, to build with. Mentorship changes absolutely everything. Early exposure doubles the likelihood that a young woman becomes an entrepreneur. I've been blessed enough, and this is the I was part of Grindstone. Grindstone. I remember how I landed at Grindstone and this mentorship program for 6 months. It was purely, I think it was just God. I was invited to a talk at NASPERS, invited to NASPERS to do a Women's Day talk. And during the talk, I, candidly say, I am so tired. I'm like, this is the platform. If I don't tell Putty that I need money, I mean, who else can I tell, right? Because that's the right room. So I then mentioned, I am so tired of being mentored. We need money. Worst case scenario, and I mean, half of this financing is, these banks is insured. Give me money and let me figure it out. And Naspers at the time was doing this program with Grindstone, called the Naspers Grindstone program. And she was like, do you want to be part of this program? And I even thought to myself, I was like, did this woman not hear me? Because I just said, I'm so tired of being mentored. But I was like, okay, well, I've got 6 months, right? What's the worst that can happen to me? 6 months of my life, what's the worst that could happen? And, being part of that program completely changed my life, my family's life, and my business. That program, what it then did for me was access to markets as well, access to the networks. I mean, I remember sitting in a room with a gentleman that was part of the marketing team for Levi. When I was then put in touch with someone who was part in the early stages of growing Nando's, and having those conversations. Now you can actually, this dream that you're building and this dream that you have, chatting to those people, you can actually see it in real life. And MIC and Grindstone program completely changed my life. And now recently, I was part of the MIC program where they funded black business and my female owned business, and my business was the first one to be funded. So, there are things like that that are happening currently and are changing our lives as women entrepreneurs. So, and it's also speaking to fair financing. No one is giving a handout. This is what I'm, going back to the MIC and Grindstone. Fair financing and fair. I mean, for us, it was they bought a share of our business and investing in me and my business, right? So we're not looking for handouts. No woman is, looking for a handout. Give women access to capital, and they will unlock, the markets. Yeah, we'll unlock the markets that we're not reaching. So just give us the money, and ultimately that's what it is, right? And policy can shift, culture faster. It's very, very important. I mean, the quotas boosted JSE boards, and I particularly feel like franchising also needs things like that to get women franchisors. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think you can do a ChatGPT or Google search. In retail, food retail, I am the only black female franchisor. I mean, this is what, how many years into democracy? Why are we even say that? The first black should not even be a thing, you know. So yeah, and look, when one woman does succeed in franchising, she doesn't do that alone. She uplifts her family, her staff, and community, and those things are very, very important. Okay, so my perspective, right? But yeah, look, I think how I see it, right, is as 30%, yes, it's stagnant, but it isn't a failure either, right? It's purely just untapped potential, and there's so much. Platforms like this also, are helping drive the conversation, and I hope these conversations are not driven just when it's like Women's Month, August. This is when we talk about female entrepreneurship, but it's something that we need to live by, and unlock that potential, because there's a lot of potential there. Franchising is a model that is built for women. Um, yeah, it's built for women. And globally, we know that diversity isn't charity. It's a proven driver of returns. So get women in there, and you'll get your returns. So the question isn't whether we should bring women into franchising. It's how fast we can build these models to fit the reality of women. It has to be, flexible systems, community driven, and tech enabled. Businesses like that will, help women thrive. And the path forward, what do we need to move forward? Look, I completely believe that if in a year, one could launch, um, and this is what the MIC and Grindstone are currently doing. But I think we need more of those, than just having, this one entity that Asanda knows about, these two entities that are doing this. But there has to be a lot more of that. We launch mentorship financing plus minus 100 women led franchises. I also happen to be a member of the Franchise Association of South Africa. I sit on the membership committee of the Franchise Association of South Africa, and these are actually the platforms where this has to be driven, where we drive this policy and make sure these things are out there, right? So in the next 3 years, you move from female. You could definitely move female representation from 30% to 40% and beyond. And long term, I mean, we need innovation hubs where women franchises are incubated and accelerated. And yet again, I still maintain, yes, incubators, but programs like the MIC and Grindstone, what they have, it's not just an incubation. Government has a lot of these things, which is completely annoying. But it's not just that. You are given access to markets, you are given the funding, and it actually improves, who we are. More than anything, I think mentorship is one of those things that you need to be able to stress test your own ideas. You need to be able to look in and see your own flaws. And programs like that really, really help in building sustainable entrepreneurs. As I said, we need to have long-term visions when we're looking at these accelerator programs. And long term, they yield amazing results. You need to be open as well, as a person. And success is not just about percentage. It's thousands of good mothers, daughters, and leaders building generational wealth. So success is not immediate. Let's not look at it that way. Um, and look, and I think I do believe if we get this right in South Africa, we won't just, we're not trying to just match the global average, but we'll set the benchmarks. And I remember, I mean, that's the presentation, but I remember thinking to myself, when I actually got this topic and the invitation from you guys, this is a very simple question to answer. What do we need to grow female representation? Yes, I've spoken quite a lot about other things, but it's truly, truly simple. Mentorship, finance, and access to markets. That is all we need to actually get to where we need to go to. It's not a long conversation. And I'm not going to sit here because I pride myself at, let's just get to the point. We're not just going to sit here and speak a lot of dribble. We know what we need. And yeah, man. And I think just the parting shot is that, empowering women in business and in franchising is not a side project. It's the next chapter for our growth. And yeah, so thank you.